How to Develop Self-Confidence and Influence People by Public Speaking by Dale Carnegie. I never knew this book existed, but for a while I've wanted to do a book on public speaking and self-confidence because these were the two valuable areas that I focused on to help me in my journey in entrepreneurship. And arguably, more so than anything else, has improved my life in many areas. The ability to speak publicly, speak in groups, to do these YouTube videos, to do events, group discussions, or speak at my clients' offices with their staff, connect with people in public even, randomly, have conversations with people. That has helped me so much, arguably more so than anything else, and has contributed more towards my success in business and in my life than anything else. Thus, I want to share with you not only the information covered in this book, but my own examples, my own personal experience. And I want you to recognize that it's one of the best ways of developing self-confidence. Real, core, powerful confidence. Confidence that comes from within, not confidence that is dependent on the external world. But something happens internally when we learn how to speak publicly. And not just speak publicly to entertain, but speak publicly to influence, to get others to take action towards a win-win outcome. Suddenly in our brain, it feels like we've opened up a door to infinite possibilities, because really you have. Your ability to speak publicly and influence groups of people to take action towards a result is a life-transforming skill, and it is the skill that some people in this world have mastered to such a high level that they literally influence where the direction of the world is going. Now, you can go that far, or if you're interested in business success, then recognize that your business success is going to come as a large part of your ability to influence people. And your self-confidence in that, your ability to do that, is really multiplied through the experience of doing it. It's essentially a loop here, a cybernetic loop. When you improve your ability to speak publicly through influential ways, by influencing others to take action, you develop self-confidence. Your self-confidence goes up. And when your self-confidence goes up, your ability to influence and your ability to speak publicly goes up also. And thus, through this discussion, we're going to focus on building self-confidence through the very act of public speaking from a place of influence. So, the gaining of self-confidence and courage and the ability to think calmly and clearly while talking to a group is not 1/10 as difficult as most people imagine. It is not a gift bestowed by Providence, only a few rarely endowed individuals. It is like the ability to play golf. Anyone can develop his own latent capacity if he has the sufficient desire to do so. So public speaking is a skill. Learning how to influence is a skill. Developing those skills raises your self-confidence. If you notice that your self-confidence is low, then working on these skills raises your self-confidence. Because if you can influence a group of people towards positive action, then you know internally that you have something valuable to offer others. And you have the ability to do it. Thus your self-confidence goes up. And it's a skill that you can learn. And I speak from personal experience because I wasn't very good at it. Now, I've gotten a lot better at it, and it's helped me tremendously in my business and growing this YouTube channel. And I also recognize that I have a far longer journey to go on than I ever imagined possible. There's so much more room for optimization. And I'm improving with every attempt that I make in public speaking, and you can do the same. Speakers often experience the same feeling even when they are talking over the radio. Microphone fright. Microphone fright. Some people, no matter how often they speak, always experience this self-consciousness just before they commence. But in a few seconds, they've gotten on their feet. It disappears. Whenever you take action towards speaking in public, whether it's group events, speaking to people in public, in groups, doing live events, making a YouTube video, there's always going to be some fear associated with it. But you learn how to work through this fear. You learn how to rewrite the stories associated with the fear. A good book that I recommend reading is What to Say When You Talk to Yourself. I put a link in the description. I made a video on that. You get better at rewriting the story, and you'll recognize that fear starts to go away after you're a few seconds or a minute or so into your presentation. It starts to go away. And the degree of what it goes away, or how much it goes away, is really based on experience. And that's why it's recommended that you not only do it once or twice, but you make this a discipline to do as much as possible, to find yourself in public speaking events, to speak in public as often as possible. Then you are going to learn how to tap into your inner subconscious understandings and how to project that outwards. So a lot of times what happens is when we learn public speaking, we focus on conscious preparation, writing the script, writing our presentation word for word. This is not natural. That's not the way to influence. Real influence comes from your ability to speak from your subconscious. Speak from your subconscious. And the way to learn how to speak from your subconscious is through repetition, yes, but not relying on scripts, not relying on formalities, to just speak. And in the beginning, you're going to come off as being choppy. You're not going to be accepted. That's not because you are communicating from the core, but you're still holding on to certain kinds of approval-seeking behaviors in your communication, or you are judging yourself and you're just projecting that outwards, or you have a hard time deciding what to talk about. When you speak from the subconscious, you don't need to decide. It just flows out of you. This comes through repetition. And this is really experienced and really understood once you take action. So notice this next time you speak publicly. Notice how the first minute or so you're in your head and you're too self-conscious. And then you just start to let go. You just start to let it all out. Now, I actually recommend doing that, just letting it all out. Just let it flow. Don't be concerned with making mistakes. You will make mistakes. That's part of the journey. If you want to become masterful at public speaking, you have to go through it. All the best public speakers go through it. All the best public speakers speak from the unconscious, from the subconscious. They are a valuable source of information, and they allow that information to flow through them. There are many exercises that will develop self-confidence, but public speaking is one of the best. Self-confidence really is connected to the subconscious. If you allow the subconscious to flow out of you, all these good behaviors that are talked about, like body language and voice tonality, tend to come a lot easier and naturally. That's because the subconscious is far more intelligent than the conscious. Okay, a good book to read is The Power of the Subconscious Mind by Joseph Murphy. I did a video on that. I put a link in the description. When you tap into the subconscious and you allow the subconscious to communicate in your public speaking, then you will recognize that you have far more confidence than you allowed yourself to experience. And then once you experience your subconscious flowing through your communication and you observe how well the audience resonates to the authenticity, to the vulnerability, to the realness of that communication, then your self-confidence is going to go up even higher. But this only happens if you do things the right way. Okay? Doing things the right way. Those that have a high level of ability to, on a surface level, communicate well publicly or do events and talks might not necessarily have a high level of self-confidence. They'll come off as being very scripted, artificial, and not very authentic. So next time when you observe a speaker, someone who speaks publicly, observe the authentic ones. Look for the authenticity behind their communication, and look for the lack of authenticity behind the communication. Someone who speaks from a place of subconscious and lets the information flow out of them might make mistakes, but that authenticity connects to us. We feel connected with them. So our goal when we're speaking publicly to improve our self-confidence is through that type of communication, tapping into the subconscious communication and letting it flow out of us. We do not do it to gratify the ego. Okay? We don't do it to gratify the ego. The ego is surface level. The subconscious is deep. Okay? Subconscious is the depths It's the core of who you are. We want to let that flow out. If we focus on how we look, or trying to be cool, or trying to impress others, then we're just gratifying our ego. And while you might get approval from that, your approval is going to be externally dependent. What we want is internal acceptance of who we are. That is what contributes to a high level of self-confidence. When you've got that, you don't look for approval from others. Any approval or validation you get from others is merely just optimization data. This is a very stoic way of looking at things. Because if you identify with that validation or approval, you will start to feed your ego. And then you will lose your flow. Okay? Your flow will start to go away. A good book to read is Flow by Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. When you're communicating and you're speaking from the subconscious, the information has to flow out of you. When it flows out of you, you're more likely to real-time resonate with the audience and connect and adjust accordingly, because you'll be able to feel the connection with your audience. But if you're looking for approval and you're trying to be cool, you're going to be too in your head. You're going to be too self-conscious. Now, another element that I like to focus on is public speaking to influence actions in others. Public speaking to influence actions in others. It's recommended that you study direct response marketing, copywriting, and any kinds of communication styles, Influence, the Psychology of Persuasion by Robert Cialdini, to learn how to communicate in a way that influences others to take action, creates behavioral change in others. That is going to raise your self-confidence far higher. And by the way, entertainment and getting others to laugh is also influencing actions. You don't necessarily have to communicate from like a business and a personal development perspective to influence actions. To influence actions is really focused on the benefit of the audience, okay? What they want to feel and your ability to evoke that feeling in them, and to connect that feeling towards something that can further benefit them down the road. So to keep this simple, we're going to focus on business-related topics, because entrepreneurship is the area that I tend to focus a lot on this video, and it's one of my deep passions. In the realm of entrepreneurship and public speaking, we want to develop our ability to speak to groups or large groups, small groups, large groups, one-on-one in a way that influences actions, either to buy or to build a relationship with us, or to change the way of thinking in a way that's beneficial to the other person. And the way we do this is to speak to what they are interested in. Okay? We influence by connecting and building rapport to what they are interested in. When we connect to what they are interested in, and we speak in a way that is deep and one-on-one, specifically, even though you're addressing a group, it's more one-on-one tone, we're more likely to influence because we build the trust. People will do business with those that they like and trust. And they will be influenced by those who they like and trust. So thus, we want to focus on developing public speaking, again, not for egotistical reasons, not to look cool, but to positively influence others. A good public speaker can still fluctuate on self-confidence. It's important to recognize. A lot of times when we think of a good public speaker, we look at them and we say, oh, they present really well on stage, their words just seem to flow, but there's something about them that doesn't seem right, something about them that doesn't seem authentic. They don't really speak from the subconscious. They're very scripted, and they come off as being fake. And at a deep level, we don't resonate with them. And while we might be surface level entertained and engaged in what they're doing, we don't really feel like taking action when they give us a call to action. You'll see this a lot, especially in the business world. Some people will practice their presentation over and over again. They'll have it down. They'll communicate and they'll give a call to action, but a lot of people will not resonate and respond to that call to action. And then you'll see another person who's not very scripted, makes errors, grammatical errors, but they speak from the heart. They allow the subconscious to flow. And based on that, they resonate with deep emotions with the audience. And when they give a call to action, people take it. They'll buy. That's why what we want to focus on is influence on a win-win perspective. What's in it for our audience, and making it about them and not gratifying the ego. If you do that, your self-confidence will go up, because if you can do that, there's a lot of things that you could do in this world, a lot of things you can create with that ability. Core confidence is not taught through theory. It is gained through action-based experience, being in the arena, in the trenches, speaking at the events, booking the events, hosting the events, public speaking, by actually going out there. The more you do it, and the more you refer back to the content that's covered in this video and the book, the more likely you're going to tap into that subconscious style of communication that we're talking about, where you're speaking authentically. And that comes from experience, because really what I found in my journey is that I had to remove a lot of layers of self-consciousness being in my head. And the more I communicated at these events or workshops or doing these videos, and while being aware that what's really holding me back is my self-consciousness, the more I recognize that I just gotta let go. Okay, just let go and let the subconscious come out and flow. One of the reasons actually why I do lengthy videos is because I've gotten a good ability to tap into subconscious communication. This information is not scripted. I have some points that I include in here. There's a structure, yes, but most of it is improvised in the present moment. That comes through practice. So thus, when I'm doing these kind of presentations, or when I'm at a client site and I'm doing presentations with their staff, or if I'm doing deals, business deals, and I'm trying to influence towards a win-win outcome, the communication comes out a lot more naturally because I've trained myself through repetition. Okay? Trained myself through repetition. You don't train yourself through theory. There's a lot of theory out there, and you can watch this video over and over again. But the real way to get good at this is to actually book some time and do it. Okay, go and apply this information. Let's talk about core confidence for a moment versus externally oriented confidence. Okay? Core confidence is the belief in who you are, what you have to say, and what you have to offer, because you know you come from a good place, and you recognize that what you have to offer can benefit others, and you're happy to communicate that to others. You're excited about it. And when you learn how to speak publicly, when you do that through repetition, and you allow the subconscious to flow, your core confidence goes up. And if you get approval or validation from others, it doesn't gratify your ego. It's optimization to help you realize what you should do more of or less of. If you're externally oriented in your confidence, then you're presenting so that others will approve of you. You're presenting in a way that you want others to give you validation for whatever concept you're sharing. And if you don't get it, you might end up getting angry with them, angry with yourself. And if you keep going on that cycle, what's going to happen is you're never really going to develop that core confidence. And the more core confidence that you have, okay, the more core confidence you develop, the more you'll allow your subconscious to flow when it comes to public speaking. Okay, that's what we want here. We want our subconscious to flow when we're public speaking. Yeah, but there's going to be structure to it. It's not just random stuff. It's designed to be set up in a way that's influencing others to take action. And in that process, we build our self-confidence. So let's talk about the 4 areas that he covers in the book. Start with a strong and persistent desire. All the stuff that I'm talking about and that's covered in the book can seem like a lot of work if you don't have a desire to learn it. Okay, the desire should come from a place of being genuinely interested in sharing and influencing and bringing about positive change in business, whatever area you're communicating in. If you have that desire to create positive results, knowing that by creating positive results, it's going to be reciprocated back to you, and you're very adamant and insatiable about it, then you're more likely to take this seriously and look for ways that you can apply it every day. But if you don't have that desire, this is going to seem like work. It's going to seem stressful. And then when you actually go out and speak at the events, people are going to feel that. They feel that you don't really like communicating. You don't really like sharing. You're not really excited about sharing and influencing positivity, giving them what they want. And they're not going to like you. They're not going to accept you because remember, people are thinking about what's in it for them. And your job when you're speaking in public is to, give them a good time and entertain them, but also provoke thought to influence towards a win-win outcome, perhaps change their ways of thinking in a way that's beneficial to them. And if you can do that, they start to respect you even more. But what's deep energetically and projected outwards is your passion and your desire to do that. They can feel that. If that's missing, you're creating more friction. You're creating more barriers to influence. The desire to go against what others may tell you about your ability. Core confidence, self-confidence, is the ability to look within ourselves. And while we get opinions from others, ultimately we make the decision. The more you can do that, the better it helps you in your ability to speak publicly. People can sense when you're a leader. Okay, I made a video, recommend you watch it, 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. The last video that I made, I'll put a link in the description. The desire to be able to think for yourself. You gotta have a desire to want to think for yourself, because if you think for yourself, and yeah, you pay attention to the opinions, but you don't let them sway your ultimate thinking abilities, you develop critical thinking skills, then what you present and what you communicate to others will be more unique and powerful and multidimensional. And you have to have the desire to want to think differently to be able to do that. If your desire is not strong enough, you will not take the action or will create unnecessary resistance. You'll not take the action to do the lifelong discipline of being an effective communicator, public speaking from the perspective of influence to build your self-confidence. You're not going to do it. There's only a small percentage of the people that really have a notable ability to do this. And that's because they have a desire to do it. And it's a rare skill. So if you want to develop the skill, you have to understand that you have to be motivated and you have to go up against everything that's trying to keep you where you are. Others might tell you that this is not the best use of your time, or they might tell you there's different ways of doing things. But I'm really sharing with you what I believe is, from my experience of many years of working in this realm of public speaking and understanding the real power, the essence behind it, and that is the ability to speak from the subconscious. The ability to speak from the subconscious. If you don't have enough desire to take action, repeat action to break through the barriers that you've created within yourself, the barriers of self-consciousness, the barriers of resistance from really telling the authentic truth in your communication. And that resistance is going to show up in your communication when you're speaking with others. And by the way, no matter where you are, you can always get better at this. This is something that I work on every day, is to remove more of this resistance. I'm not going to get into too much discussion in it because it will make for a very lengthy video. Number two, know thoroughly what you're going to talk about. Know thoroughly what you're going to talk about. Now, there's the content, and then there's how the content is delivered. Whatever it is you're going to communicate, make sure you really know what it is that you're talking about. You speak from either experience or something that you have researched extensively. That's the surface level stuff, the words. The energy, the power comes from the subconscious communicating that, and your passion and your desire and your excitement. Recognize that you don't always need the credentials if you know what you're talking about. One of the things that creates the self-consciousness in communication and speaking publicly is when we don't have the credentials. If you're speaking about something, you don't have the credentials, and if you attach to that idea that you don't have the credentials and therefore you're not able to talk about it, then when you communicate that, when you speak publicly, others are going to feel that, and they're going to feel that resistance in you. It's going to be there. No matter how polished your talk is, they're going to feel it. When you speak to a large group of people, and they're sitting there, or even a small group, and they're listening attentive to you, do not discount the fact that they are picking up on your subconscious and your nonverbal communication. As polished as you are with the words, they know what you're feeling. Okay? And if you're feeling that you're not worth it, you're not worthy to talk about it because you don't have the credentials, then it's not going to influence them because they're not looking to you as a leader, someone who's influential. Now, this doesn't mean you go and pretend like you have the credentials. You just need to adjust everything in a way that comes from maybe your personal experience. Because some subjects don't even require credentials or references. You can speak from your personal experience. For example, although I share a lot of information that is covered within the books, I also share my own personal experiences. I don't have a formal credential or a formal training in public speaking, but what I did do was many years of informal training. I don't have a Toastmasters, whatever the certificate is. However, I can communicate and hold my own in a lot of public speaking scenarios, and I can do a really good job based on what I've learned from other public speakers and what I've learned in these books, and really what I have learned through experience. And thus, perhaps as you're listening to this, you'll find that some of these points really resonate very deeply with you because you recognize that it comes from my experience. You can feel it. You know that I'm not making it up. A passionate speaker usually resonates more with an audience rather than a knowledgeable one. A passionate speaker usually resonates more with an audience rather than a knowledgeable one. So a couple points here. Having the desire to want to influence win-win in others creates passion. Number 2, allowing the subconscious to flow when you're communicating projects passion. People connect to your core. They feel the deep human drive to want to share, to want to contribute. If you're just knowledgeable and you could just speak about a subject knowledgeably well, and there's no passion there, then people are not going to resonate with you because they don't feel the authenticity. They don't feel the humanity in it. They don't feel the personableness. Now, it's great to have both, to be really knowledgeable and to be really passionate. That's the best. So if you tend to be more on the side of passionate but you don't have the knowledge, then that's not going to help you either because, remember, people are interested in what's in it for them. They want the knowledge transfer, so you've got to develop the knowledge. If you come from the side where you're a lot of knowledge but you don't have enough passion, then you really need to develop the passion towards it. You have to see how one of the greatest things to do is to learn how to influence a win-win outcome, how to influence benefit, how to influence action in others, and be really excited about it. Another good thing is how to speak from the subconscious, be passionate about it, study different kinds of information books. I already mentioned Power of the Subconscious Mind. Study different elements about how to tap into the subconscious through your communication. Once you do that, you start to tap into that passion. And when you combine that with the knowledge, what you're going to talk about, or what you talk about, really has an impact on the audience. Let's talk about some strategies. I went through a program a while back called Clear Communication by Eben Pagan. And here are some notes that I borrowed from the program to add to the discussion of this book and video. Know what you want to achieve and be willing to experiment till you get it. Know what you want to achieve and be willing to experiment till you get it. So this is a very direct response marketing philosophy. If what you have to offer is knowledge and advice on a specific subject, and you want to share it in a way that gets people to take action, either buy what you have to offer or create behavioral change in their lives, then you have to understand that it might not happen in the first try, second try, third try, fourth try. You might have to dedicate months, years before you can have that effect on your audience. But you must be willing to experiment and stay with it till the end, okay, till you get it, till you're able to achieve that behavioral change. Now, granted, it has to be a behavioral change that the other person either wants or they don't realize or understand that they want it, and thus you'll help them understand through your conversation, through your presentation, how it's beneficial to them, and then they'll want it. But you have to experiment. You have to try different things. Different kinds of audiences respond to different things, different kinds of communication, different ways of communicating information. There are audio learners, visual learners, kinesthetic learners, those that are physical, that are mental, more emotional learners. Whoever it is you're communicating with, you have to know how to speak to how they receive information primarily and even secondarily. The most important communication is the one you have with yourself. So this is interesting. If you learn how to influence and get yourself to take action, then you're going to find that you're going to be more influential to others. A lot of times you'll see people are very good at giving advice to others and telling others what to do, but they're not very good at taking their own advice. And a lot of times you'll find that when they give that advice, when they share what is actually going to help others, those others don't take action. They don't apply it. That's because although they might think that they're good communicators in creating behavioral change, they haven't really figured out the process to be able to create behavioral change because they've never been able to do it to themselves. If they were able to do it to themselves, then they'll pick up on the very valuable insights and nuance points and elements and include that in their communication to get others to take that action, to others to have that behavioral change. That's why it's good to work on yourself first. And when you produce results in yourself, share the results and figure out how to communicate effectively to present to who you're trying to communicate to how to do it, the step-by-step process, understanding different learning models, studying NLP so you can communicate effectively and clearly to that audience based on the model that you have done on yourself being the person that you are able to create the behavioral change on, creating a model based on that and transferring that knowledge over to your audience. That starts with the communication you have with yourself. And what to say when you talk to yourself is a good starting point. The second most important communication is that which you have with your audience. Okay, first, it starts with your ability to communicate yourself. Now, a lot of times you don't hear this in a lot of public speaking kind of training. But I'm sharing with you my experience and some of the information I've learned from some of the most influential public speakers, those that are able to create the most behavioral change in others, inspire others to take the most action. And almost universally accepted is this principle that you have to first learn how to communicate to yourself to create results for yourself, and then learn how to communicate results for your audience. If you start with communicating and trying to influence your audience, and you've never really learned how to influence yourself, then you're missing out on an opportunity because you're no different than your audience. You're a person and they're a person. The cool thing is that when you work on yourself, you can experiment a lot faster. You can test things and see what works a lot better. Now, there's a lot of things, elements, components to public speaking and influencing. I already mentioned studying influence psychology persuasion. Robert Cialdini has a new book out called Persuasion. I might do a discussion on that. There's a lot of sales books. One book that I'm going to do is the new Jordan Belfort book. He talks about the straight line persuasion system, which, by the way, is a great selling system, the straight line persuasion system. So many different things, direct response marketing, copywriting, so many different elements. We can go on and on and on. But at the end of the day, if you learn how to apply a lot of those principles to yourself to create the behavioral change, then you're going to model that and apply it to your communication and public speaking with others. Next is the responsibility of the communication belongs to the communicator. The responsibility of the communication belongs to the communicator. If you're not able to create results in your audience, if you're not able to persuade them, to influence them, to take the action, it's not their fault. It's your inability to speak effectively to generate influence. Now, the beauty is that if you don't create the results, then you've got a ton of optimization data that you could work with to figure out what you did right or wrong and how to restructure it, and you can try again. Try again and again and again. As mentioned earlier, be willing to experiment till you get it. Now, there's no cookie-cutter set step-by-step way that works universally in every scenario, verbatim. That doesn't exist. But there are principles, and we're covering principles. And one of the principles is that you recognize that if it doesn't work, if you're not able to influence, that it's your responsibility to go back, to reevaluate, to consult with others, to reference back to books and content to figure out what you did wrong that didn't influence the action. And it could be that that audience is not interested in that action. Be the message you are trying to communicate. Be the message you are trying to communicate. This has a lot to do with the most important communication is one that you have with yourself. If you're able to influence and communicate with yourself to create results, and you are a walking testament for those results, then there are tons of things that are being sub-communicated and subconsciously communicated when you speak, when you address an audience, because you already have the results, because you're walking evidence. When I hear somebody talking about something that they have no results in, and by the way, you don't have to have the highest level of results. I talk about entrepreneurship and business on this channel, but the truth is that there are tons and tons of entrepreneurs and business owners that have far more success than I do. What I try to do is I share my experience based on my results. And as I grow, as I learn, I share more. And I base it on the information covered in these books because the authors of these books have more experience in this area. But the key to it is that when you come across people that don't have the results and they try to communicate, it doesn't feel right. It doesn't resonate. And it's very unlikely to influence. Very unlikely to influence if you don't have the results. So if you learn something and you apply it on yourself and you produce results, and then you go out and you create a talk around it and you share it with others based on the fact that you actually have the results, then all this other stuff that we're talking about is going to flow a lot easier. Because one of the most important elements, as I mentioned earlier, is allowing your subconscious to communicate. If you've actually produced the results, then believe me, you have far more knowledge than you're able to articulate. It's in there, it's in your subconscious, and it'll come out, it'll flow out during your public speaking, during your event, during when you're communicating. And it's a repetition and understanding of these principles and the letting go of the self-consciousness or the self-limiting beliefs that allow you to combine what your understanding is, your knowledge is, the message, with the self-confidence that you have already been living it. And that's a powerful, potent form of communication to your audience. Self-confidence through preparation. Does the preparation of a speech mean getting together of some faultless phrases written down or memorized? No. Does it mean the assembling of a few casual thoughts that really convey very little to you personally? Not at all. Assembling your thoughts, your ideas, your convictions, your urges, you have them all day when you're walking life. They even swarm to you through your dreams. Your whole existence has been filled with feelings and experiences. These things are laying deep in your subconscious mind, as thick as pebbles on the seashore. Pre-preparation means thinking, recalling, selecting the ones that appeal to you most, polishing them, working them into a pattern, a mosaic of your own. So, and this is something that I do and work with when I'm creating my videos, my content, is when I pick a book, I reflect upon it for 1 week or 2 weeks at a time. I look at all areas of my life, my business, my personal life, and I see how what the information conveyed in the book is related to my own personal experience. And then I take little notes. I put it on my phone. And these notes are notes that I refer to when I share with you the content. And this has been really helpful for me. So it's not about necessarily putting together a speech where you're trying to impress others and be faultless. The power lies in your own ideas, your own convictions, who you are, and how it relates to the information that you're communicating. Okay, there's the information that you're communicating and your own personal experience and your own elements of your subconscious, which, by the way, if you reflect upon, let's say you write a speech, or let's say you're going to present about a certain subject, and you got the subject and you got your key points we're going to talk about, and you outline that in a mind map. And then you dedicate a week or two to reflect upon those key points, and you look for experiences or understandings that kind of just pop up out of your subconscious. You take those and you note them in there, and you present those points, and you allow your subconscious to fill in the gaps as you're presenting once you get out of your head. Remember I mentioned the first minute or so. Then you're going to watch as your audience resonates really well. They're going to feel that authenticity. They're going to feel that they are like you. You are like them. You're going to be one with your audience. And then when you give your call to action, your influence, what you would like them to do, they're more likely to comply with that because there's going to be a deep level of trust that's built. You will find that the sermons you enjoy preaching the most and the ones that actually accomplish the most good in the lives of your people will be those sermons which you take most largely out of your own interiors. This goes back to the point that I made earlier. If you want to influence, be the message you are trying to communicate. Live it, embody it, and focus on embodying it as much as possible. Another example is when I do these books, I make sure that the key points that I'm presenting, I have been embodying with diligence and practice for weeks, and I keep reflecting back on those points and after I made the videos until they become who I am, until I live them at a deep level. A lot of them are points that weren't really brought to my awareness until I read the book because, again, I'm basing it on past experiences. So a lot of these things I did, I just didn't recognize I was doing it, or I didn't have a way of explaining it. So I reflect back on those experiences. So I've been embodying it for a while. Come from my own interiors. Now, it doesn't matter where you are in the journey. You can be very early in the journey, but you have experience. You have experience. Try to not talk about things that you don't have experience in because it's not going to be very influential. Remember, people can read through nonsense. They can read through when somebody's lying. So you want to be telling the truth. You want to be communicating authenticity. Start with what you have. Okay? Develop some experience, or I should say, develop your ability to communicate effectively what you've already experienced as a template and a base, and present that and build upon the successes. Start small. How to prepare for your talk. What topics ought you speak on for practice? Well, really anything that interests you, anything that what I believe is anything you've got experience with that has impacted you positively, that has leveled you up. Have you learned something that has increased your success, whether it be financial success, fitness, business, certain area of your life? Based on your own experience and practice, that's probably going to be something that would make for a great talk. Number 2, determine your subject in advance so that you will have time to think it over in odd moments. I mentioned 2 weeks, but there are people that I know that they have this one talk that they do really, really, really well, and they just keep building upon that talk. Now, someone that was really good at doing this was Russell Conwell. He wrote the book Acres of Diamonds, and he used to go around giving that talk. And that talk is a very powerful talk. And it's just that one talk through repetition, building upon it, building upon it, and building upon it, and reflecting upon it, allowed him to modify in a way that was very influential. And Acres of Diamonds is a very powerful short read based on the talk. But it's very influential. If you read it, you cannot help but be influenced by that talk. While preparing, study your audience. Think of their wants, their wishes. That is sometimes half the battle. When you're communicating and you want to influence, you have to make sure that you select the right audience. And you have to understand that it's really more about them. Okay? It's actually all about them. You want to make it so that you inspire, uplift, instruct, and even entertain based on what works for them. You cannot force them into accepting you. You cannot force them into believing you, and you can't get them to do things that they don't really want to do. You can persuade alternative ways of thinking, but it happens through more of a gradual process, not through a forceful process. Real power is not force. Okay, real power is your ability to connect with another person, resonate with them, build that like and trust, and then propose a call to action, then propose a suggestion. And if they're not interested in it, knowing how to read them and understand why, where, or all the different elements of how to readjust and go back and maybe make another proposal. But this happens through repetition. Every time you present, every time you do a public speaking, look at your audience, study them. If possible, record the session and watch the session over and over again and observe how the different things that you said either resonated or distracted or either had their attention or lost their attention. Reflect upon it and go back and make the modifications. Refer back to your mentors or different books or different kinds of trainings that you do on alternative ways of going back and communicating with the audience, not necessarily as a whole, as in rewriting your presentation, but maybe different elements of it. And it's through the repetition that you not only learn how to communicate to that specific audience, but you develop principles and a model and framework on how to communicate with other audiences. Because although the tactics might change, the principles universally remain the same. You know, one of the famous principles made famous by the movie Glengarry Glen Ross is AIDA, attention, interest, decision, action, or some say desire, action. It's a framework. There's tons of these frameworks that are out there that will allow you to build a solid presentation and then allow you to break down where in the process it didn't work. Did you have their attention? Were you able to get and hold their attention? Did you have their interest? Right? Did you have their ability to resonate with what you're communicating? And the list goes on and on and on. Study your audience. It's very, very important. The way to develop reserve power is to know far more than you can use to have a full reservoir of information. Those that are great influential public speakers have a ton of reference experience based on what they're communicating. Even if they do a 10 or 20 minute talk or a half an hour, even an hour talk, they have hours of information that they can pull in dynamically anytime, depending on what the audience is responding, because this is a two-way street. You are communicating to the audience and they're reflecting back to you their interest or lack of interest. And you got to be able to calibrate real time, be in flow with your audience. That is the subconscious flowing. And they're able to pull different elements from the subconscious mind, subconsciously, different kinds of information and adjust accordingly. So the communication, the actual speaking is not very static. You could do static types of speeches, but it's the ones that are dynamic. That, yeah, they have a structure to them. The main points are being addressed. But there's a lot of dynamic elements to it that have a lot of impact. And it's worth practicing. Okay, it's worth practicing improvising during your public speaking or just taking improv classes in general. The ability to improvise and communicate effectively and pulling from that reservoir of information that you have is going to allow you to further your ability to influence because you're going to be able to dynamically adjust real time. Don't read and don't attempt to memorize your talk word for word. Now, there are exceptions to this rule, but for the most part, if you want to develop self-confidence, because that's what we're focusing on, self-confidence by public speaking, then you want to learn to tap into your subconscious reservoir of information. And you want to allow the information to flow dynamically based on what your audience is responding to real time. How to open your talk, different ways of opening your talk. Arousing curiosity, relating a human interest to a human interest story, beginning with a specific illustration, a drawing, using an exhibit, asking a question, opening with a striking quotation, showing how the topic affects a vital need of the audience, starting with shocking facts. Don't make your open too formal. don't let the bones show. Make it appear free, casual, inevitable. This can be done by referring to something that just happened or something that just been said. Many different ways of opening the talk, and it really depends on the audience and your situation and so forth. There were some key points I pulled from the book that you can experiment with. Next, how to interest your audience. Remember, our chief interest is ourselves. As human beings, we're always thinking, what's in it for us? What's in it for me? That's what your audience is thinking all the time. If you forget that at any point, you might lose your audience. I know it can be challenging, and it's something that I've been working with for a long time, but it's very easy to get too caught up in the passion of what you're talking about, especially if you're really passionate about it, while not keeping into consideration that you might have lost your audience. You always have to keep it on what's interesting for them. It has to be win for them. And you got to make it win for you and them, yes, but you've got to make it about them. You got to resonate with the audience. The person who leads others to talk about themselves and their interests and listens initially will generally be considered a good conversationalist, even though he does very little talking. This is very interesting. If you can get, let's say you're speaking at an event, doing some public speaking, if you can evoke dialogue with your audience, not necessarily verbal dialogue, but a dialogue in their head, and you're able to speak to that communication that's going on in their head, then this can be really powerful. So one-on-one, for example, when you're communicating with someone, you have the opportunity and the ability to communicate something and then have the other person open up, and then they just share and they just keep talking. And after a certain point, the conversation ends, they look at you and they say, wow, this person's a great conversationalist, even though they did most of the talking. Well, in a large public speaking event, you can't really do that. So the way I found to be able to implement this is to communicate in a way that as you're communicating with them, a conversation happens in their own head. They're thinking about things, and they feel that they're connected with you because even though they're conversing in their head, the brain doesn't really know the difference between, for a lot of things, reality and what's in our head. Even though you've provoked those thoughts, those ideas in their mind, and it's all these ideas are running through their mind, that's what you're trying to do. Not necessarily have them listen passively to everything you have to say, but evoke insights and perspectives in their mind through your conversation with everyone in the audience if possible. Interest is contagious. The audience is sure to catch it if the speaker himself has a bad case of it. But it cannot be won by the mechanical adherence to mere rules. Interest is contagious. If you're not insatiable and passionate about what it is you're talking about, like really, you obsess over it day and night, then it's not going to have that high level of influence that we want. A lot of people get started in business and they create products and services because they want to make money or whatever reason. But if they don't have a passion for their product or service, not genuinely interested in it at a deep level, not for egotistical reasons, but interest in it to share how much it's going to benefit, and it really does connect to the interest of the other person, what the other person wants, then there's a disconnect. Has to be interesting to the other person, as in it appeals to their self-interest, because remember, what's in it for us? W-I-F-M. What's in it for me? W-I-I-F-M. W-I-I-F-M. What's in it for me? Remember that. That's what everyone is thinking. What's in it for me? Even when you're listening to this, you're thinking, what's in it for me? And if at any moment something is not beneficial to you, your mind will kind of zone out, not really interested. Now, granted, there are certain things, and I'm not going to get into discussion where your mind zones out that you need to rewind back and listen to, because that could be your subconscious not accepting some of the information which actually will help you break through to a higher level of understanding, and thus when you go back and re-listen to it again, you'll find this, but that's outside of the discussion. if you're not interested in what it is that you're offering, what you're communicating in a way that's beneficial for the other person, and they're not interested in it, then you're not going to have that influential connection. If you don't have the influential connection, your self-confidence is just going to drop because you're going to not have that ability. Your ability determines your self-confidence for the most part. How to close a talk. Stop, but don't talk about stopping. So again, self-confidence is one of those things where we just do. We don't talk about how we're going to do it or that we're doing it. We just do. So here are some pointers that were covered from the book. A lot of people, when they end a talk, they talk about how they're going to stop, but it actually breaks the confidence that the audience has in you. It kind of lowers you. Summarizing, restating, outlining briefly the main points you have covered. Appealing for an action, giving a call to action, telling them to do something. Now that you've built that like and trust in them, you build that connection with them, they're more likely to comply and take action for a win-win outcome. Raising a laugh. Personally, I like appealing for action. That's one of my favorite go-tos because, again, it's built on the direct response marketing principles, something that I'm very passionate about. And so in direct response principle, it's very action-oriented. We're trying to provoke action. Practice confidence. Fear is begotten of ignorance and uncertainty, says Professor Robinson in The Mind of the Making. To put it another way, it is a result of lack of confidence. And what causes it? It's the result of not knowing what you can really do. And not knowing what you can do is caused by lack of experience. When you get a record of successful experience behind you, your fears will vanish. So practicing your craft, whatever it is that you're working on, whatever your area of interest or subject is, while developing your ability to speak publicly about that, is going to give you the experience. That's what's going to give you the experience. So you're developing the experience in public speaking based on your current level of understanding of your subject while you are working on your subject, gaining more experience in it. It's like a cybernetic loop. One of my favorite concepts is that cybernetic loop. Student is the teacher and the teacher is the student. One of the great ways of learning something is to teach it, but not teaching more than you know, but teaching what you know. Then you start to recognize how to optimize what you know even further. And you go to work on it, and then you're able to teach it at a higher level. So experience really gets you to get over your fears because you know what you're talking about. There's a deep knowing of what you're talking about. When you combine that with the ability to teach others through public speaking, then you're adding more power to that. And your self-confidence goes up. We all have 4 contacts with people. We are evaluated and classified by 4 things. What we do, how we look, what we say, and how we say it. Okay? What we do. That's why it's always good to really live the philosophies that you're talking about. If you're not living the philosophies, others can feel it. They know it. How we look, how you present yourself, your presentation. What you say, very important. But arguably even more important is how you say it, speaking from the subconscious. And when you come from the subconscious, what you say tends to flow out a lot easier. Which, when you speak from your subconscious, you start to look different. You'll notice this. When you're speaking from your subconscious, when you allow your subconscious to flow, people start to look at you different. They see something else in you energetically. And really, what you're speaking from is experience, who you really are. You can't masquerade or fake it. They'll be understanding what you do. What you do is communicated from your subconscious. To develop courage when you are facing an audience, act as if you already had it or act as if it was impossible to fail. In the beginning, it's hard. So one of the things you have to recognize is we don't want to fake it, but we want to believe in ourselves, and we have to actually jump ahead and say, how can we communicate what we're about to communicate in a way that would be impossible to fail? Like, it's impossible to fail. It puts your mind in that frame and is more likely going to allow the subconscious to flow. Every talk, regardless of whatever the speaker realizes, it or not, has one of four major goals. Okay? To make something clear, to impress and convince, essentially influence, to get action, which is also a form of influence, and to entertain. Where does your presentation lie in this? Here's some more concepts from Eben Pagan's Clear Communication. The meaning of the communication is the response you get. Meaning of the communication is the response you get. So thus, when you're communicating with an audience, when you're speaking in public, it's important to pay attention to the response you get real time, as well as the response you get from any actions that you are trying to provoke, if you get the action, what varying degree of an action you get, or if you don't get any action at all. If there's something specific that you want them to do and you ask them to do it, what's the percentage of them that actually do it versus don't do it? How motivated are they to do it? And for the ones that didn't do it, what are the reasons you believe that they didn't do it? Because you might think that you have communicated effectively, but most communication is miscommunication. We actually think that exactly what we're communicating is being received the way we intend for it to be received. But every person carries with them a different view of reality. And what they're really looking at is what's in it for them and how what you're saying fits into their reality. And with practice and time, and this is something that I work on, you get better and better and better at communicating certain language patterns specifically designed for the audience that you're interacting with, that is more clear as far as specific communication designed to evoke specific response, and it's received to a higher fidelity, higher level of understanding on their side. And in the process, we must always be checking, testing, confirming, and aligning. Checking, testing, confirming, and aligning, real time. Now, in the beginning, when you're doing a lot of public speaking, this might seem kind of hard because you might be too much in your head. You're not really allowing the subconscious to flow, because when the subconscious flows, the resources are freed up. You don't have the self-consciousness, and you're able to tap into this, the real-time checking, testing, confirming, and aligning, which happens almost naturally with practice. And once you're in flow, again, Flow by Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, good book to read. Checking, testing, confirming, aligning, and readjusting your communications. And this is why we talk about how it's better to practice improvising and adjusting and going off the cuff and riffing to benefit the audience, not to go on tangents, but to benefit the audience and to give them more value, which again builds like and trust, which is more likely to help them be influenced by what you're trying to influence them by. Win-win outcome, as always. Projection. What is the emotional state of someone that has achieved this? Okay, think about that for a moment. That's why it's always good to communicate something based on who you are, okay? Having the actual experience, having lived through the scenarios, having gone through the experience and understanding to communicate from that space. Because then you're actually communicating the emotional state of somebody who has already achieved it. And what you're doing is you're projecting that state outwards. And when someone is highly receptive and you are communicating through your subconscious while testing, checking, confirming, and aligning, you build a connection even further, and you're actually projecting that state over to them. When they receive that state, they're more likely to do the actions. They're more likely to comply. They're more likely to be influenced because it comes from a place of authenticity. You are projecting a state of what you are feeling because you've already experienced it over to them, and they're receiving it, and they're feeling that experience. And thus their confidence goes up. Their self-confidence goes up into what it is that you are trying to persuade them or try to influence them to internalize or take action on, because it's coming from a place of trust. It's realness. It's not manipulative. So one of the ways to improve your communication is a realization that lying, and once you realize that you are lying in a lot of cases, even if you might not be aware of it, because lying wears many different masks. Not being authentic, not communicating the realness, and with practice, when the subconscious starts to flow, the realness is communicated. The only time where the realness is not communicated as the subconscious is flowing is if you're slipping in periods back to conscious and subconscious. Conscious so that you can control and adjust what flows out of you. So lying in general is a very stressful thing to do. Lying in general is a very stressful thing to do. If you lie to others and you lie in your public speaking, and if you practice lying in your just day-to-day activities, then it's a major cause of stress. And stress is projected in your communication. It's projected in your voice. It's projected in your energy. And people don't want to receive that stress. So even if you are practicing telling the truth in your public speaking, but you're lying most of the time outside of it, you're not being honest, you're not operating from a place of integrity, that stress, remnants of it, is brought into your presentation. Now, it might sound like we're going very deep into this, but it's important because these are the elements that I found to be really helpful. Now, in the beginning, when you present stuff, we might find ourselves lying a little bit or just kind of making it sound better than it should be, or not really revealing the vulnerabilities or the weak areas and trying to do it so that we can seem better than we are or seem higher than we are. But people pick up on this. And what's more important, your subconscious mind picks up on it. And it causes a lot of stress. And stress is a major killer behind most diseases. And a major cause of stress is lying. The biggest type of lie is withholding information which diverts people into not knowing what's going on. Biggest type of lie is withholding information which diverts people into not knowing what is going on. When you allow the subconscious to flow in your communications, you reveal what needs to be revealed. And then when you're checking, testing, and confirming and aligning real time, and you recognize that the meaning of the communication is the response you get, you adjust to bring out even more of the truth that is relevant. There's probably a lot of truth, and there's probably a lot that you could say to someone to influence, to provoke action. But it's not about saying more, it's about saying what is required and what is going to have the most impact. And you can't do this if you're withholding information. So one of the things I hear a lot about is, do you tell people everything when you're teaching, or do you try to save more for later? Essentially, if they buy something else, then they get more information. I personally don't like that. I believe that my job is to communicate as much value as I can give to create the behavioral change that they want for a win-win outcome as I can in the interaction that I have with them, knowing that in more specialized scenarios, I can get even more specific. This is very applicable when you're doing consulting. When I work with clients and I do presentations with groups, I'm doing this. I practice allowing my subconscious to flow on the specific area that we're consulting in the business, whatever it is, with the group, while I'm reading the audience, while I'm reading the group, checking, testing, confirming, aligning, to see if they really are being responsive in the way that the communication was intended to be responded to, which is a benefit for them. And I'm doing it without filtering, without holding anything back. Because I recognize that the subconscious is going to flow the right information, the right volume, the right intensity, if I just get out of my own way consciously. And then during that session, we identify key points, key areas that we want to go deeper on. And in the next session, perhaps, they might invest more in another session, or we get into more specialized programs. We go deeper into those points, should they choose to want to go deep in. But nothing is ever a result of withholding information. You see how this works? The truth is, if you have a lot of knowledge about a subject, is that you can go very deep into very specific points, and it has nothing to do with trying to throttle back on the contribution that you're making. It's nothing to do with it. It is a form of lying in a way. And any form of lying, the reason why I put this in here for clear communication, again, this is from Eben's clear communication program, is going to break the connection that you want with your subconscious when you're presenting, when you're speaking in public. Secret of good delivery. There's something besides the mere words in a talk which counts. It is the flavor with which they are delivered. It's not so much what you say, but how you say it. And, there's many different tactics that you can deploy for saying things the right way. Actually working on adjusting your tonality, working on your body language. There's many books on it. But what's more important is allowing the subconscious to flow, because a lot of times the tonality and the body language becomes automatically optimal as a result of allowing the subconscious to flow. When somebody's in the subconscious and you can feel them, you can say, well, this person's really communicating from their subconscious. You'll notice that they'll have good body language. You'll notice that they'll have really good tonality. You'll notice that they're very clear in their communication, and the clarity is really dependent on how open they are of allowing their subconscious to flow. And those are the elements of how it is said. Many speakers ignore their hearers, stare over their heads or at the floor. They seem to be delivering a soliloquy. There's no sense of communication, no give and take between the audience and the speaker. That kind of attitude would kill a conversation. It also kills a speech. Now, why do many speakers do this? Well, number one is they're trying to control the situation. They may be trying to control the audience. Maybe they're trying to manipulate. Or they might just be afraid that people won't accept them and their subconscious flow, so they put on an act, so they put on a front. And they recognize that this doesn't really resonate with the audience, but they're afraid to be in sync with the audience, because the audience will see through them. Thus, it's manifested in a subconscious behavior of not being present with the audience. Good book to read is The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, and why it's important of practicing being in the moment, being in the now. The same case applies when you're speaking in public. All that matters is the communication that's happening right then and there, and we have to open up the channels of authenticity and subconscious flow as much as possible, because that's what's going to benefit the audience the most. But when we're not paying attention, when we're not real-time checking, testing, confirming, and aligning, by connecting with our audience, by allowing our subconscious to connect with our audience, by really feeling this deep sense of connection with them, then we're not really being effective in projecting the right levels and volumes and whatever else, all these so many granular elements in effective public speaking in a way that's influential. Good delivery is conversational tone and directness in large. Conversational tone. Talking with them, having a conversation with your audience, even if they're not responding back, you're communicating with their responses that they give in their facial expression. You're reading them energetically. Again, this comes with practice and experience. And it's a conversational tone, having a one-on-one conversation. It's almost like you're having a one-on-one conversation with each person. Each person feels like you're having a one-on-one conversation with them. Not talking at them. You're not telling them what to do. You're having a discussion with them. Talk to your hearers just as if you expected them to stand up in the moment and talk back to you. Put your heart into your talking, real, emotional sincerity. Next is presence and personality. According to experiments conducted by the Carnegie Institute of Technology, personality has more to do with business success than has superior knowledge. This is because people like others who they feel are trustworthy. Okay? People that they like to do business with. If you're very knowledgeable, but you're not trustworthy and you're not likable, and you can become trustworthy and likable by really reviewing the elements we've covered so far in your conversations, not just speaking public, but your one-on-one conversations, If you're not doing those things, then even if you have superior knowledge, people are not going to want to work with you. There's something about being likable and trustable that opens up the doors, and for good reason. Because even if somebody has superior knowledge, they might not have our best interests in heart. So we really want to feel connected with those that we're communicating with. Don't speak when you're tired. Rest, recuperate, store up a reserve of energy. Do nothing to dull your energy. It is magnetic. Remember, we're projecting energy outwards. You could say that most, and I know this from experience, most of public speaking is energetic transfer. Energetic transfer. Effective, influential public speaking is energetic transfer. People cluster around the energetic speaker like wild geese around a field of autumn wheat and smile. Come before your hearers with an attitude that seems to say you are glad to be there. Okay? Not pretentiousness, not talking at them, one with them, speaking with them, communicating with them warmly through smile. Some general pointers here. Step out briskly and take a deep breath. In fact, breathe deeply for 30 seconds before you ever face your audience. The increased supply of oxygen will build you up and give you courage. Stride forth bravely, stop, stand still, and act as if you love it. Draw yourself up to full height, look at your audience straight in the eyes, and begin to talk as confidently as if everyone owed you money. Do not nervously button or unbutton your coat, play or fumble with your hands. As a general rule, it's bad for a speaker to hide behind furniture, but it may give you a little of courage the first few times to stand behind a table or chair and grip them tightly or hold a coin firmly in the palm of your hand. Next is practice. Okay, practice, that's the fourth step. What a man needs is not courage, but nerve control, cool-headedness. That he can only get by actual practice. It will always feel uncomfortable when you start doing this, and may continue to feel uncomfortable. There'll always be a certain level of discomfort. But you must embrace it, rewrite the story around it, and realize that it's through this uncomfortable feeling that you actually grow. It's like an exercise, like a workout. Workout is going to feel uncomfortable. Most people will not take this much action. Remember, if you are aiming to improve your public speaking, but not just public speaking for no reason, but to just entertain, but rather to influence, to create positive change, and recognize that you are in the minority that are willing to go this far. Most people will say they want to do it, but they won't necessarily take the actions. They won't necessarily internalize what has been discussed. But if you choose to do it, then you're going to recognize that it's going to be uncomfortable. You might not have a lot of support in going this direction. But that's good, because the key here is 80% action, 20% theory. Take more action and reference back to theory. 80% action, 20% theory. So how do you improve your diction? Essentially, increasing your vocabulary. Your diction will be very largely a reflection of the company that you keep. If you surround yourself with individuals who communicate effectively, you're not just using big words to be impressive, but to use the right words at the right time, right sequence to effectively communicate, you're going to find yourself automatically absorbing those behaviors. Read a dictionary by your side. Look up an unfamiliar word. Try to use it, or try to find use for it so that you can fix it into your memory. Connect with people. Okay? Connecting with people reveals to you details about yourself. When you make conversations with others, when you connect with them, it reveals to you your weak areas that you need to optimize. Observe your body language. Observe your tonality. Observe if you're letting your subconscious flow, or if you're putting up a wall, a facade, or you're putting up a front. And recognize why you're doing that and how you can work to improve it. This doesn't mean that all communication will be subconsciously flowing, but you'll find that those that you interact with and you build the deepest connection with, your communication just tends to flow out of you. And communication, because it flows out of you, it opens them up to allow their subconscious to flow with you. And it creates a very interesting dynamic. Take notes on how you can optimize your progress. Okay? Take notes on how you can optimize your progress. Very important. Every time you partake in a public speaking engagement, reflect back on areas that you can optimize. Here are some optimizations. This was borrowed from the discussion that I did on the charisma myth, the book. And I'll put a link to the description. Recommend you watch that video. The 3 elements of charisma: power, presence, and warmth. Okay, let's look at these. Power. Are you clear and specific? Is your eye contact strong but not overbearing? Are you energetic? Are you being assertive? Are you looking for approval or reading the situation? Okay, looking for approval or reading the situation. Good communicators are not looking for approval, validation for egotistical reasons, but they're reading the situation to optimize. Again, done subconsciously is more effective. Presence. Are you in the moment? Is your words, body language, and voice tonality in alignment? Are you focused on who you are speaking with? Is your energy grounded? Are you being real or putting on a front? Warmth. Do you have passion for what you're talking about? Are you smiling? Is there a sense of feeling and connection with your audience? Is there a sense of compassion in your communication? So now that we've discovered and discussed the 4 areas, let's talk about some action items that you can apply to integrate what we've discussed so far in this book, as well as the other books and other notes that I've taken in my own personal experiences. Number 1, book time to speak at formal events or host workshops. Actually go and book time to do it. You can go to meetup.com, or you can find different events in the area that allow others to speak, or you can join Toastmasters, or you can create your own event, but make some time to do it. You can start a YouTube channel or partake in an online platform that uses video to communicate. You can participate in discussion groups or forums on the internet, but not just discussion groups for the sake of just filling it up with comments and so forth, but adding to the discussion to practice your ability to be more persuasive. Speak to at least 5 new people or groups a day in public. Wherever you are, make conversation with people. Apply these principles. As much as these principles apply to group public speaking, they also apply to varying degrees to one-on-one communication. Reference back to this video before and after you take the suggested actions to further optimize. This is an ongoing journey. The goal here is to improve our ability to speak publicly, improve our public speaking abilities from an influence standpoint, okay, to help us communicate effectively to influence. And in the process, build our self-confidence, because your self-confidence will go higher and higher when you recognize that you can communicate effectively and influence in the communication. Not just talk well, but influence well in your communication. If you want a copy of this mind map, the link is in the bottom of the description. Thank you very much for watching. I'll talk to you soon.